I hit it twice because it's going to be nice. There you go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of, I have to always look at it to make sure I'm doing the right podcast, Sports Live with Steve and Justin. And it's funny because Justin was starting to set up a TikTok account. And he's like, I can't believe Steve and Justin is gone. Meanwhile, I totally forgot that I had already set one up. I just never used it. So I kept logging into the one I set up, and I'm like, I don't see any of the videos. Meanwhile, it was a mess. But anyway, needless to say, hello, Justin.
Good evening, Steve.
So I've been crazy maniac running from one thing to another today. So I apologize for us being about 15 minutes late, but it was a crazy weekend. You know, my mom used to say around the holidays that when everyone's happy, the devil is always around. Well, it's for sure in the rest of the world, the devil was definitely around. We have shootings at Brown University. We had shootings in a Jewish community in Australia. And now we find out that, Rob Reiner and his wife were murdered by their own child. I mean, at least if that's who arrested. I mean, it's just bizarre. Some larger than life character, Rob Reiner. The movie, forget about his acting. The movies he made were just,
incredible entertainer, actor,
right.
certainly a Hollywood
right. American
guy.
president, a few good men. We can go on and on and on. Harry Met Sally, just left us. And what's amazing is he just did a podcast. And for those of you that know, Justin and I know that I do a podcast on history and things. And one of the things we just did an episode last week, the fourth episode in a video series about the assassination of JFK. And, that's Rob Reiner did one going through all the new evidence that had come to pass. So in that, I feel a little bit of a kindred spirit. That and my parents and my sister and my brother-in-law really were all in the family. If you ever met my sister and my brother-in-law at the time, and my mother, who was a lot like Edith, she spoke like her, she looked like her, and Edith didn't let on she was really smart. My mother graduated like number one of her high school class at Cathedral High in New York City. So, and she was Italian, so her father would not let her go to college because women are meant to stay home and work, and only men go to college. So she almost became a nun, but thankfully a drunken sailor, my father, came along and swept her away from Bishop Sheen.
Swept her off her feet.
Yeah. I won't go into a lot of those gore details, but I mean, my father, drunk in his sailor suit, did ask my grandfather at the urinal in the men's room if he could. Well, he didn't ask, he told him, I'm going to marry your daughter. And I would say the relationship went considerably downhill after that. But anyway.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a great story. It took me a long time to get that out of them, but I was like flabbergasted. I think they only told me the story after my grandfather had passed away. But anyway, so our thoughts and prayers go out to all those we're looking for. And, they arrested somebody at Brown University and he wasn't the guy. And now they're out there looking all over again. So there is a fear that he's going to attack somewhere else. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone.
Certainly.
With these things. So after that, we'll get back to the sports scenario. So we're very, very, very... three varies. It's a three very to have with us today. I'll let Justin introduce our first guest appearance, and hopefully the first of many more. Let you do a little bit of introduction before I let him in.
Yeah, I'll have to try not to man crush right now. So we're going to bring in a former University of Michigan player who played for Bo Schembechler, who then coached at the University of Michigan and was on staff as defensive coordinator when they won the national championship in 1997, on to the NFL with the Giants and the Jets. and coached a little bit with the Steelers and the Colts, and is now the head coach of the Raiders of Tyrol in the Austrian Football League.
Austrian
Jim Herman,
American Football League.
American Football League.
So was he, before we get him in? I mean, he was at the Giants when they went to the Super Bowl. They win that Super Bowl?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes,
So he
they
has a
did.
national championship
And
and
a
a Super Bowl?
Yep.
Come on. That's not even fair.
That's pretty impressive for a first guest.
It is. I have to say, I had nothing to do with it, as most things that go on around here. I'm a techno guy. If I didn't have the technology, people would be going, Steve who? Sorry, we'll let him in.
There he is.
How are you in your Michigan hat?
Go Blue, boys.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. It's a pleasure to meet you. We have never met before. And Justin talks about you all the time. You know, when he sent me, I just think that you were a member of a national championship and a Super Bowl team. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's like,
Well,
if envy was a color, I'd be it.
Well, I've had a very fortunate career, so I'm been very blessed.
I'm sure there's good reason for it. Good reason for it. So, boy, you came on at a perfect time. But have been a Michigan player and a Michigan coach. You gotta kind of scratch your head. I mean, you talk about, and I don't mean to talk over you ahead of time, but you talk about sat there and tried to think of a more coveted coaching job anywhere in sports. Forget about college sports. Almost anywhere in sports is coaching Michigan. I mean, how many people that never knew anybody that played for Michigan walk around with the hat on, right?
All over the world. All over the world.
Right. Remember this?
It is.
So
Yeah.
we'd like to hear a little bit from you regarding what's went
Sure.
on there.
Well, unfortunately, a young man made a really terrible mistake. And, at the end of the day, we all know we pay for pay for what we do, and there's consequences to pay. And you're right. I mean, the Michigan job is, you talk to any football coach at any level, they'd be, you want to go to Michigan? You want to be the head coach of Michigan? Hell yeah,
People go from the NFL to Michigan. I'm sure there's NFL coaches out there saying, hey, I'll be the Michigan coach.
Well, especially now with the way the salaries are in college. It didn't used to be that way. But now with all the revenue sharing and all the stuff going on with TV rights, there's a lot of money to be thrown around.
Right. So
makes the college job much better.
So where did you grow up originally?
I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then moved to Detroit, Michigan, Dearborn, Michigan, right in high school. And then when I got done playing in high school, then I ended up going to Michigan in 1979.
Wow. Did you get a scholarship, or you a walk-on, or how did it work?
No, I was scholarship.
Nice.
There back then, redshirt freshman year, and played sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then when I was finished after the '82 season, I wanted to coach, and so I went in and talked to Coach Jim Beckler, and he's like, "You want to coach?" I said, "Yes, sir, I want to coach." And he said, "Oh, good. Here's my key. Go get my car washed. You start now." And so 20 some odd years later, when I left Michigan in 2005, it was a great run for me.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So who did you play? So in the old way that national champions were picked, right? Was there a national championship game, or you guys just won a bowl game? I don't know about that era.
Well, actually, this was when I was the defensive coordinator in 1997. I don't know if you remember that year. There was a controversy between us and Nebraska as to who should win. It was the last year that picked it by the AP or the PR or the other thing was.
Right.
And,
Coaches poll.
Coaches poll.
The rigged coaches poll.
Rigged coaches poll, yeah. Tom Osborne had announced that he's retiring, and they went 12-0. We went 12-0. We were a much more impressive schedule than they did. And they had the infamous fourth down thing, whatever. And
Kick ball against Missouri.
yeah, against Missouri, exactly right. And so there's a lot of debate, which was good for college football. And then the next year when they started the playoffs and having games to play for the national championship, but we won it. Basically, we outright won it in 1997. Nobody concedes it to Nebraska.
Wow.
Unless they're from Nebraska.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah, not a lot of people there. It was big. I remember my dad, who, never been in the Midwest in his life. He used to like Nebraska all the time. He loved college football. New Year's Day, you'd be like, "Oh, I want to kill myself." Can I watch March of the Wooden Soldiers or something, Dad? I mean, but no, we watched football all day and night on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yeah. We did the same thing.
Yeah, I still do. I during the year sometimes. I mean, listen, the bowl games could wear you out now, especially more than ever, right? I mean, when the Rose Bowl, we know back when you won, the Rose Bowl and the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. I mean, those were it. Orange Bowl too, but
Yep.
they were it. To play in the Rose Bowl with the parade and the pageant and everything that went on, the tradition there of making those floats and being the team that gets chosen. Pretty amazing. I mean, you would put it on the Rose Bowl was above everything else, and that gets lost today for money, I guess. Pretty much.
It really does. I remember my first year, 1979, my first big full team meeting, and Bo was going through our goals and going through the schedule. We had one goal: win the Big Ten, so we go play in the Rose Bowl. And Ohio State was the same way. I mean, win the Big Ten, go to the Rose Bowl. That's what you did back then. And that was the prize of the Big Ten. And had to do it twice as a player. I think like 11 times as a coach. And to me, there is no bigger event in college football than that. Now, today it's the national championship game. It's presented by 17 other sponsors, and it's the Rose Bowl is still the Rose Bowl, and those
Absolutely.
people out there do a wonderful job of taking care of you. And as a player, I don't know if you know Michigan history, but 1979 freshman year we played at the Gator Bowl, and we stayed at the Sea Turtle.
Wow.
We stayed at the Sea Turtle Inn, and we played North Carolina and Lawrence Taylor, and Lawrence Taylor on the fourth snap snapped our quarterback in half, and the game was over. But the next year we go to the Rose Bowl, and we're sitting there as sophomores. We win it. We actually just had our 45th anniversary of that team. That was Bo's first victory in the Rose Bowl, and quite a bit of difference between those two bowl games.
I bet. People forget Lawrence Taylor played college football. If you think people see how dominant he was in the NFL. How about what he was in college? It was unbelievably scary how athletic he was.
Our left tackle's still trying to find him.
That's funny. Yeah, no, he was just one of the most exceptional players. And when people say who's the greatest defensive player, I have a hard time. And I watched him professionally my entire life. I grew up in New Jersey, not far from the stadium. My friend's father had season tickets down on a 40-yard line, 10 rows up. We would do everything in our power to go to the game. And he was something to watch,
Yeah.
I don't want to, it goes to say, we don't need to talk about him.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing. If he would have played in today's era, same body, same everything, but in today's era, the athletes are so much more well educated on fitness, taking
Right.
care of their body. Lawrence burned that candle at three ends. Trust me. I just think who knows how much better he could have been, even better than what he was.
I remember after one of the playoff games, there was a road, I don't know, Patterson Plank Road or one of those roads that go right by the stadium, and it's like it's like a half a strip club. I've never seen strippers in there, but it may have been some days during the week. And we see, we pull off there because we shouldn't be driving anyway, so maybe we should go to the bar. So we pull off. Lawrence Taylor's on the bar after a win with a bottle of champagne in one hand, and who knew what else he had in the other. And he's walking up and down the bar, and everyone's just cheering, and he's guzzling champagne.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like the one day he was driving by the stadium, he saw the lights on. He was like, shit, I thought the game was tomorrow. And, he went in, he ended up getting out there about 8 minutes left in the first quarter and showed up and had a great game, so.
And the best of the videos, how Parcells used to get under his skin, right? Parcells would know, I thought you were going to play defense today. And he would get so mad, and he'd go out there and make some amazing play. I was actually on the front row by the end zone for the San Francisco game where he made caught the Jim Burt levels, who was the quarterback, San Francisco.
Joe Montana
levels Joe Montana, and he gets the interception, and it was just a frenzy. But anyway, we don't want to hear about that. So what do you think is in store for Michigan's future at this point? You have any insights or what thoughts?
Well, we've obviously we got to name a new head coach. The problem is today that when all this transpired, Char wasn't there, the team psychologist wasn't there, the depression management people weren't there, and now there's a lot of things going on about the athletic director. So you can't hire a coach if you don't have an athletic director. So I think the people in charge should get a major decision like, okay, are we going to, do we move on from our athletic director and hire a new one and then go hire a coach? Do we have time to do that? Or do we let the sitting athletic director make the decision, and then afterwards we'll deal with whatever we're going to do the fallout from that. I mean, we're in a little bit of a time crunch, and some fast decisions have to be made. I think, like you said earlier, Michigan's one of those programs where, okay, maybe we wait, we get a new AD, whatever, and then we go and say, okay, hey, we want you, and get all the donors and all the people and the board of regents and everybody behind, because, like you said, there's only one Michigan job, and it's very special. I think somebody said something to Nick Saban, and he kind of shook his head. But let me just tell you this: if he was younger, he'd be standing right there at the front door.
Yeah, I guess he would.
Yeah.
I guess he would, because during this time of having the portal and things, there's still the guiding light of Michigan football up there. So no matter what, you're a kid. You think you're going to make more money than God your whole life. And when you get old, you realize you didn't. But in the beginning, you think that, you're going to be driving a Ferrari and living in a big house by the ocean your whole life, right? And especially if you're going to Michigan or going to a big school like that. And there's something more than just money, right? You want to be, especially if you're that elite athlete. Those elite athletes, they don't necessarily always think about the money. The elite ones are thinking about being the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And look what Michigan, the programs, the doors that it opens, the contacts it makes.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
everybody.
You look at right now in NFL football, and every single Sunday, Monday, Thursday, you see Charles Woodson, you see Tom Brady. I mean, there's Michigan guys all over the place.
Right.
And even now in the college announcing groups, there's more and more retired Michigan guys that are in that. To me, it's a great influence, and I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing guys that I coached and guys that I know from Michigan doing it. And I just think this next hire's got to be a bullseye. We
Got
can't.
to be a bullseye. I think everybody
Yeah.
realizes that.
Yeah.
I think, but you're right. I have a friend, she's in county government, and she went to Michigan. Her kids went to Michigan. You know the story, right? And you could ask her how well the Michigan basketball team, men's, women's, you can ask her about, the men's Michigan curling team she knows. I mean, she bleeds Michigan blood. You know what I mean? So, and that's really what Michigan says. I mean, it really is something. I mean, Ann Arbor is a special place in itself. So,
And I think, yeah, we hit a bumpy road here, and it's just like anything else. The people in leadership, us alumni that are close, we all need to say, okay, hey, let's get over the bumps here, and it's over. What direction we want to go in, and obviously we don't want to take the Rich Rod road, which is what happened last time. A famous coach was retired or whatever, and so I think it's important that we look at all of our avenues, and to me, they keep saying, oh, we need to get a big name guy. We got to do a name guy. I mean, I look at our basketball coach right now.
right.
Hell, I want a guy just like him. I mean, you see
He
our
wants,
basketball team now and see the discipline. And I watch them. I watch their team. I watch their bench, and I'm like, okay, here's a guy who's got every kid knows exactly what their role is, and they play hard and tough, and that's really what you want. And then from there, you get the great athletes and you win.
that's right. Well, you need somebody, you need a coach with heart, and you need a coach that's credentials are above reproach, right? Somebody that,
Especially now.
especially now, but that's true. You need that right now. You need that. It's really just, it's hard to find in today's world. It really is.
Well, they're
Does
out there.
Michigan need to move on right now, or can they hire from within, circle the wagons, and see how this plays out with the AD, if he stays or not?
He's shaking his head. I mean, the AD's got to go.
I mean, I have friends that are on the staff. I know the AD very well. He played for me way back when. Anytime something like this happens, and the more and more it comes out every day that this has been going on for a while, da da da. Okay, at some point you got to sit there and say, okay, um, the leaders, the people are going to make these big decisions. Hey, look, we got to wash our hands here, and we got to take that out of that building. Fortunately, there's a lot of great guys in there. Take that out of that building, clean that building, and let's start with this man, and we're going to build it this way, his way, with his people, so on and so forth. I just don't think you can allow people to have an inch to sit there and say, well, he was here when this happened. He was here in the cheating scandal. He was here in the infidelity scandal. He was here, you know what I mean? And it's just another chink out of the armor, you know what I mean? And it just got to be like, hey, look, you either clean sweep it, or, the guys that do stay, like you said earlier, got to be beyond reproach.
The athletic director seemed to have a pretty stellar resume when they picked him to come in, and things seem to kind of get a little better. Obviously, he goes out and gets Harbaugh. I know the basketball situation didn't go right from the beginning with Juwan Howard, but they seem to straighten that out. But I'm more concerned about, you've been there, you've seen Michigan through different eras, different coaches, different athletic directors. Is the standard at Michigan the same and as strong as it always was, or is it enforced differently by the current regime?
Great question. It's not what it used to be, because back then
Nothing is.
it's not that way in sports anymore, college sports
Right.
anymore.
Absolutely.
Back then, 4 years of his career, Bo was the head coach and he did them both.
Yep.
And when he decided to retire, he went up, said, I'm retiring, and Gary Muller's the next head coach. Any questions? That doesn't
I'm
happen.
sure money plays a part in those decisions. And we're talking with Jim Herman here. If you're watching or listening to Steve and Justin, Sports Live with Steve and Justin, please like and subscribe and share. Coach, right now, from your perspective, we always talk about it. It's beyond wins and losses in Michigan because of the standard. The standard still exists. It is still a top job in the country. Obviously, people now talking about top 3, top 5 job. I personally think it's the number 1 job in the country. I know I'm biased, but this is a university that has not just produced national championships and Super Bowl MVP quarterbacks, Hall of Famers. They've sent people to the moon and President of the United States. No other university can say that.
Not elected, though.
Not elected. Thank you for reminding me.
Very good, Stephen.
But where now does who's making that decision to go forward right now with or without the AD?
Well, it's going to come down to the Board of Regents and the president of the university. Obviously, we have a new president because Ono left a while back. I'm not sure how long ago, but unfortunately, here's the issue. You have a Board of Regents. Sorry about that.
We do it all the time. There he is. He's back.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are business and money people.
Yeah, they're academicians and business people, and in the society, and you have a president that's an academic type person. So they've got to trust the people that they talk to in the sports world, and hopefully they're talking to the right people. And when they look to make these decisions, they're not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. You from the AD, or you keep the AD and have them pick the next coach, and then you sit there, you say, okay, how much damage did he cause by firing without HR there, and so on and so forth, and all the way down the line. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not that close anymore with the Board of Regents. I used to, but I knew all of them very well. Usually there's one on there that's a athletic personnel type guy, and so hopefully in this group there is, and they can rally around that and hopefully make the right decisions.
Right.
Well, I hope they decide to pick you. Obviously there's going to be a short list from within if they think they can get away with it, or if they think they can use that right now, if they have somebody in the hopper within the program.
If they did, it would already have been done.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. The talking heads are all abound, and they're throwing out names like Jeff Brome from Louisville, obviously Kalen DeBoer from Alabama. I've heard, Clark Lee and Elijah Drinkwitz from Missouri, which I'm not big on that one. PJ Fleck from Minnesota, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, obviously Jed Fish at Washington has a little history with Michigan. And then, I would say Signetti and Lanning are probably not going anywhere. Is Jed Fish the lead candidate right now for this job?
Are you asking me if I would pick him?
All right, I'll ask you if you would pick him, but
I'm
asking if he's on their radar.
I really like the guy at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
I know he signed a new contract.
Clark Lee.
Again, to me, you watch his team, you watch what he did with a perennial, bottom quarter of the SEC, and what he's done because he's been able to use the portal, he's been able to use the NIL, and he's just like everybody else, and he's winning. It's just like what Signetti did at Indiana. In today's world, the recruiting superpowers mean nothing, because you can go to the portal, you can NIL, you can get this kid, and who has more NIL money than us? We got Larry Ellison in our bankroll. I mean,
Right.
He's the third richest man in the world, and his wife's a Michigan grad. I mean, if I was in those guys at their age right now, I'd be like, it's a no-brainer. I'm gone. But I just I look at the teams, I look at the discipline, I watch, I would love to get Cignetti at Indiana. I watch his team, I watch the way they play, I watch the discipline and the intensity, even when they're blowing a team out, that's the way we used to play when we were at Michigan, and it's impressive. Vanderbilt guys the same way. I don't think it'll be another Big Ten coach like Fleck or whatever. But there's Kalen DeBoer is an interesting thing.
I don't think he's leaving Alabama.
I don't either.
I think he's ready to establish
he's
himself.
He's that type of a guy. You know?
I mean, for me, the issue is timing, right? So the NCAA timing of things, whether it's signing day, whether it is just messed up.
When the portal opens.
I mean, all those things make it so difficult, even what just happened with LSU and that mess for a coach that remains nameless because I didn't
for
go
good reason.
I didn't go for it at all. I think it's more likely, and me who knows zero about how these things work, that's why I have a podcast, and that
I love it.
That Justin will tell you all the time, I don't really need to know anything about anything because I'll learn it instantaneously while I'm talking about it. But I think it's more likely that they pull somebody from the NFL. I think it's more likely that these people are going to be available to them and be open to move in a time frame that fits what Michigan needs to do. And yes, would I love to see a guy like Mike Tomlin there? Absolutely. He's that guy that has heart and brings all those things I think that you're talking about to Michigan. And I think it's a fresh new world for him. The only thing is NFL people haven't, maybe coaches have, like coordinators and things because they're closer to it, but he hasn't brought in players and went around the signing day and did all that crap is what it is in a long, long, long time. So, 25 years ago. So that, that could be an issue, but
I think you want to get a younger guy. I mean, I love Mike. I've known Mike since he was a GA at Arkansas State. Way back. But in today's world with the NIL, with transfer portal, with the major colleges having an actual personnel department that does nothing but surf the portal, and then another one that actually recruits high school juniors and sophomores, and another that goes out and garners all the money for NIL. I don't know. I mean, you look at I don't know how he's doing there in North Carolina, but I'm just going to tell you this: it's not like what it used to be. And to me, not only do you have all those functions as a head coach, but you still have the things that we all got into coaching for: develop young men, help 18, 19-year-old boys turn them in, teach them how to play, teach them how to be tough, teach them
how to be a team.
How to be a team. And that's kind of what's, I think, the biggest thing for us Michigan guys, the guys that I've talked to, my old teammates, the biggest, issue we had is, you stand in front of those kids and you tell them this, and then turn around and go in your office and doing something else, So I'm sure there's some kids on that team sitting there going, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you just want to get a good guy in there that can get the kids believing in Michigan again, and rely on the fact that Michigan's going to have the best team out there and the best people in place to help them win.
Michigan has some, 5-star recruits in the fold already. What do they have to do right now? If you're on staff, what are you doing right now, not only to prepare them for this upcoming bowl game, but the challenge of the portal and them thinking about jumping ship? How do you handle that as a coach when you address the team?
I'll just tell you this right now, because they're doing it now. You are recruiting every single player on that team. You're recruiting them every day.
Every day.
Even though they're there, you're recruiting them. And ensuring and talking to their parents. Back in the day when you went recruiting, I always used to say, look, you get mom on your side, If mama's on your side, the kid's going to come to your school. Well, I can guarantee you this: you better go get mama on your side right now,
Yeah.
and she better believe in what Michigan stands for. Believe that we're going to bring in the right coach. Believe that it's going to be a man of integrity, and mama better buy in. Because if mama doesn't buy in, the kid's going to be gone. Even if the money is less than what he's making in Michigan, so you're recruiting, I don't know, 75 scholarship kids right now who
Sure.
are on your roster.
Right.
Now I know you just signed some, and isn't it ironic that this happens 2 days after the signing date?
I don't think there's anything ironic about it.
I know I was being facetious.
I know you were.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the politics of college football. Everyone's
Yeah.
going to have to scramble for something like that. And
Yeah.
it's going to create some, logistical sore black eyes, I guess you would say. And then, of course, all the detractors coming after you, like the people from that red state, are the biggest ones. But lest we not forget that, even Urban Meyer is not without sin.
Yeah. I the point all another all team all we take care of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We need to stand up, to buck up the group, need to make a decision and find that decision and show solidarity with that decision. For screw all those other guys. That shit don't mean nothing. That'll take care of itself next November.
It's
And we're
just
all
noise.
yeah, it's noise. And if you start listening to all that crap, because I've watched coaches since I've been gone from Michigan, that's all they did. They listened to all that crap and they shit the bed.
No, you got to look. You got to listen. You have to make decisions for yourself. You have to sit. You have to figure it out. You have to pull a path, and it's what you believe in. You can't let anybody stray you. You have to stay focused, stay forward, and get everybody behind you. I mean, that's it. Because winning solves everything. We talk about this all the time. Winning solves almost everything. It couldn't solve what happened there, but it solves everything. All the little squeaky wheel, the complaints, whether you turn right or to left, whether you're passing or running, whether you're playing this quarterback and another quarterback, winning solves everything.
Yes, it does.
Are they in the position now where, I know they had a pretty decent season at 9-3, and that was with a freshman quarterback. They've got a decent running back. They've got a few decent running backs, really. They've got some talent at the wide receiver position. Assuming everybody comes back, does the next coach have to win right now, or does he have time to build the program back to prominence over time?
Well, it's a good question, but have we lost so much that we're out of prominence?
Yeah, I don't think you have.
Yeah, to me, the next guy's just got to sit there and say, okay, look, dude, this is who we are. We're Michigan. And we're going to win November. We're going to go to the Big Ten championship game, and we're going to be in the playoffs, period. There is no rebuild here. Now, when Lloyd left and they brought in Rich Rad and the whole thing went to hell, then
Disaster.
we had to rebuild. It took Harbaugh a couple years. I said it got so Brady so far down and far down. Yeah. We had to get out of the. There is no here. It's a.
So this is a good teaching moment for the kids too, right? The coaches can circle the wagons here and get it through to the kids that this is the moment to galvanize. This is the moment to show strength.
Right.
This is the moment to come together and show who you really are.
No question. Show everybody what Michigan is about. This is the unity of again. Not are we since you said earlier. University of Michigan, do you know how many kids were armed to be accepted at Michigan?
I'm sure
Like
there's a list a mile long waiting to get in.
Single year. And because great university. Like you said, yeah, we have people on the moon, we have a president. We got so much more. You can't even uncover it.
You got your own whiskey.
You got the largest living alumni in the world.
Wow.
Base in the world. I mean, my wife and I went to Beirut, Lebanon. And we're walking around the pool, and there's a guy with a Michigan hat on.
That's got to be an incredible feeling.
Yeah. So,
And if I may, I'd like to take a quick time out to say hello to May, your beautiful wife. I know she's listening.
she
Cheers.
she's telling me my connection's bad. I keep cutting out.
Well, just on that note, tell May not to worry, because when we do this, you're recorded locally on your device at the same time. So when you get done, that'll upload to the cloud, and the computer will go through it, and we'll make sure you sound great.
Okay.
So there are more than, here we go. This is what you wanted to know. This is what there are more than 640,000 living alumni in 180 countries around the globe.
That's
They
incredible.
start Larry Page, James Earl Jones, President Gerald Ford, Nobel laureates,
Jim Herman.
many activists, none of which I know. That doesn't mean anything. Clarence Darrow, how about that? Great lawyer.
Yeah.
Tom Hayden, who was one of the Chicago Seven.
Yeah.
Students
Yeah.
for a Democratic Society. So, I mean, that doesn't, art and architecture, arts, bell letters. There's a lot of people, boy. Criminals and murderers. We don't need to go through that.
No, let's not go through that.
Ted Kaczynski, better known as the Unabomber.
I said, let's not go through that.
Jack Kevorkian. Believe me, my friend that's the missioner I was telling you about, she is going to rip into me for that.
Time heals all wounds.
Time heals all wounds. So listen, no one said Kaczynski wasn't dumb. Have you ever seen his recordings and the videos of him talking? He's absolutely brilliant, but he's also absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I had a professor that actually taught him.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's how the FBI started, psychological profiling. That was the first group. It was Ted Kaczynski. And then, of course, they put out his manifesto that he put, and his brother or brother-in-law, I can't remember which one it was, says, that sounds a lot like my brother. He lives in this little shack in the middle of the woods. Let me tell you where it is.
I've been there. I've actually been there. Now the story goes that they finally found him working at a car wash on Stadium Boulevard.
No kidding.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Unbelievable.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
We could. But let's stick to sports just for the heck of it.
All right.
So when you were at Michigan, you had Tom Brady there. And I know Tom didn't play defense, but I know you have a friendship and a relationship with him. I saw him on TV this week, and he was talking about playing quarterback in the NFL and what it takes, because they were asking him about Phillip Rivers coming back. And of course, Tom said he feels like he can still play, but he can only finish, maybe the last few miles of the marathon, not run all 27 miles. And he was kind of taking a shot at Rivers, but in jest, he wasn't really going after him, just saying that the last 3 games was not the whole season, that you have to stay physically in shape all year round to play quarterback in the NFL. And he said something that he learned at Michigan was, I had to write it down, so give me a second. The mental is to the physical as 4 is to 1. And he didn't explain that. So I'm asking you if that's something that you could explain. And I don't mean to ambush you, but he's talking about how you have to be just as prepared mentally.
To me, it's a great statement, because 4 is so much powerful than 1, and really mentally is so much more powerful than the physical part of the game, especially at that position.
Absolutely.
You think about these quarterbacks and the ones that really do study and they make a difference in the game. Those guys are in there every single day at 6 a.m. They're in there at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, and they're studying. And everybody on that offensive team, everybody on the team, but everybody on that offensive team, they know if the quarterback knows. And what I mean by that is, there was a piece on Tom Brady just a while ago, but he there was a kid on the Patriots who was on the field
Excuse me.
and didn't know what he was doing, and Tom got sacked. And Tom threw him out of the huddle and told him to go back to the sideline. And Belichick put him back on the field. And Tom called timeout and walked over to the sideline and told Belichick, look, you put him in here, I'm going in. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's going to get me killed. You know, and I think when you hear people like Julian Edelman and those guys, when you hear them talk about Tom Brady in the huddle and Tom Brady on the sideline, Tom Brady in meetings, Tom Brady on the practice field, and how practice was so much harder than the game was because of the pressure he put on you to know what the hell you were doing.
Right.
And even to the point, like I knew coaches that were on the defensive side of the ball at New England, and if you didn't have the look squad and the proper alignment and rotation and shit, he's not ripping the player's ass, he's ripping the coach's ass. And so
That's a leader.
yes, it is. And sorry if I offend you, but you know what? Dumbass, it's supposed to be this way. And
We talk about preparation every week.
Every
And
week
I
we talk
am
about it.
constantly saying, did you see that team? They're not prepared. It's not,
Jack,
this isn't a game. You know, and I always go back to a John Madden conversation he gave or interview he gave. He said, you know, when he was a young coach, he said he knew a lot about football. He went to a lecture that Vince Lombardi was giving. And it was 2 hours or something, or 2 hours and a break and 2 hours more. And he said, Lombardi talked about one play, a run up, you know, the one hole or something the entire time. And he said, when I walked away, I realized how much little I knew about being prepared for football.
no question. It's so when you go from, like, I remember my first year going from college coaching to coaching in the NFL, and I I was a pretty well respected coach in college, and I thought I knew a lot of shit. I didn't know squat. And I had a really great player that was first team, my first, Eric Barton. Barton told me he's Jets coach. He said, we're all here because we're tough. We're all here because we'll hit. He said, we're looking for someone to help us get the next contract. Do little things. Find out little things for us that will give us the advantage in a game or against a certain person that we're playing against. He said those are things that these players are looking for so they can get to that contract. The little details of when this offensive lineman comes off like this is what you're getting, and so on and so forth. And that's and rightfully so, because all you do as a NFL coach, you watch film 15, 16 hours a day. That's all you do. And you're watching the other team, you're watching the opponent, you're watching the offensive line, the quarterback. What is his? And we got a guy that sits there and listens to the cadence and gives you a cadence tape every single week, and the change ups and all the little hand signals and all the things that can help a guy perform. And those little details. I mean, that's what that guy was talking about. I mean, just Vince Lombardi started it, you know. And it's probably, student body right, student body left. I mean, like you said,
My favorite play.
Yeah, I mean, you could go. There's a video of Woody Hayes talking about power off tackle. And 10 years, a video of Bo Schembechler talking about power off tackle, and you can close your eyes. It's the same dude, and the same details and the same everything. Yeah, it's like, but they believed it. They believed in it.
Yeah, but getting back to what you said about the quarterbacks. Listen, you can walk down out on the field. I don't care what you say. If you're not prepared, is it going to help you? Because everybody's looking at you. At the end of that moment, everybody's looking at you. And you want, when Tom Brady said, "Listen, 2 steps to the right, and then go make that turn right there. Do exactly what I tell you to do." He says that, you don't blink because you know he knows.
Exactly.
And he's got to have confidence in you as a receiver, knowing that you know what you're doing. You're going to be there when he throws the football.
Right.
Yeah. There's a podcast with Edelman and Gronk,
Yeah.
And the two of them were talking about when in their career they got Brady's trust. You know what I mean? Where Brady finally trusted them. And it was really interesting to hear those two guys talk about what the game, they knew the game, they knew the play, they knew the situation. And, to me, I would think as a receiver or tight end or somebody that played with Tom, that's a pretty special moment, like, okay, now he trusts me I've arrived. That means because I'm doing my job.
Yeah, he's going to take a moment and look your way. Because he knows when he gets the ball to you, you're going to make a play.
Exactly.
It's funny you said that. He mentioned that in his interview this week with I think it was Colin Cowherd. He said, "I know pre-snap where I'm going with the football, not coming out of the huddle, but when he sees the defense." And he said, "I don't snap the ball if I don't know where I'm going with the football." So obviously, there's more than just a pre-snap read and progression during the play. He knows I'm going here because that's where this play is designed for this guy to be open or for that guy to be open, which I thought was incredible because in today's football, especially with young quarterbacks, you always hear them talk about he's not reading his progressions. And that's them talking about the quarterback during the play, which means the play is breaking down because Tom said, if the ball is in my hands, that means we're doing something wrong. That's not good. I have to get the ball into the playmaker's hands. And he was really giving credit to all of the people he played with in his career, saying he knew who he could go to before the ball was snapped, knowing that they were going to be in the right place at the right time. So he said that's because he had autonomy and that he had to earn the trust from the coach to gain the autonomy to run the offense through the offensive coordinator and their system and philosophy. Now, today, especially today in the NFL, where it seems every team is win now, there's no time for them to build that trust. There's no time for the quarterback to have a chance to get to a place where he has autonomy. And he said that they become a robot for the either the coordinator or the coach. So how do you, as a head coach now, how do you address that challenge from the sideline or maybe during the week with your quarterback? And I mean, I know you're not dealing with Tom Brady, but do you have to defer a lot to the coordinator and then hope for the best, or are you able to teach them to a point where you can trust them to give them the autonomy?
I guess it's the level that you're coaching at and the experience of the kid. If it's a young player, sometimes you have to teach him robotic mechanisms, and then hopefully he'll see, oh, this actually works, and then he can expand on it. I mean, where when you got a guy like Tom, I'm sure those first couple years with and probably
Charlie Weiss.
you know that those probably weren't easy steps. You know what I mean?
Right.
Tom probably learned, like, okay, here's a system that Bill wants. This is the system that he's built. It's a very simple system, even though there's 1,000 plays to call for each part of the system. But if the quarterback goes off, what's your read? Here's your read. Throw it here. And there is no back here. You don't nothing allowed to do. You these quarterbacks, and team coaches are sitting. What? Why is he throwing over there? You know how somebody's there that looks like guys are unprepared. Well, I'm sure there's receivers out there going, "What are you throwing to me for? I'm not even in the route." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so now, once a quarterback scrambles, all that shit goes thrown out the window. It's scramble drill, and there's certain ways that you got to do it. But on a rhythm passing attack, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the ball should be out.
Right.
And when Tom was his most effective, they play the 2-man game or 3-man game to one side, hitch seam, little jig route at the number 3, and they did it a million different ways, disguised a million, but it's the same goddamn route, and they made a killing on it. They won 6 Super Bowls doing it.
He executed.
Yeah, exactly
So,
right.
and that's the other part of it all. That you say Tom knows where it's going. Tom doesn't need a lot of room to put the ball. He puts it exactly where he wants to put it. Right?
Yeah.
I like to say 9 out of 10. It's probably 98 out of 100. So, I mean, he really had the ability to complete a pass, for lack of a better
On
word.
top of knowing where the ball is going pre-snap, you have to be accurate down the field.
He didn't need a lot of room, and he relied on those. And he also relied on his receivers that when he threw the ball up there to the only open spot, that they had to make a play. They had to make a play. And if they didn't get the ball again.
Yeah. I tell you, sometimes you have to throw it to an open spot, like, okay, the guy's there, I'm going to throw it here. But there's a lot of throws where Tom makes where, because of the coverage, I can't remember whether it was Welsh Welker or Edelman, but they were talking about the soft cover 2 coverage that everybody plays against them. And number 2 breaks to the out as a slot receiver. And, all the other quarterbacks would lead this little quick out route. And if they're playing this soft cover 2, that guy's getting blown up. Whereas Tom already knew, based on his rhythm steps, 1, 2, 3, he knew if it was soft 2, and he put that ball on the backside, on the back hip, to tell the receiver, hey, look, you're gonna get hit. I don't want to lead you. I'm trying to save you here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how detailed he was when it came to football. Where some of these announcers, oh, that was a bad throw, it was on the back hip, but when you really look at it and you're really studying, you're sitting there going, he just saved that receiver's life, because that corner's about ready to blow him up.
And he also knows the opposite team. He watches enough film.
Yeah.
He knows what their inclinations are, what they like, what they don't like, how they like to play, how much room they give, how fast and slow. Maybe they get an extra step, maybe they don't. Maybe he's fat. You know what I mean? He knew all those things. Tom Brady's a almost hard comparison. One of my favorite quarterbacks, and not to say that I'm not old, I'm definitely old. And my favorite quarterbacks was Johnny Unitas. And they used to say about Johnny Unitas, when did he take control of the game? When he stepped off the bus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of leader and professionalism and drive. And what we talk about is we look at these NFL teams that consistently are bad. The Clevelands, the Giants, the Jets of the world right now, anyway. And we kind of look at ownership and say, they seem to be drafting and following these analytic ways of looking at things. And they're all businessmen, so that maybe that's what they understand. They don't understand football. They don't understand one player or another. They don't know who's better than another. They don't. And it seems, because money is spread around in a different way. I mean, you don't have to win to make money in the NFL. Matter of fact, you barely have to show up to make money in the NFL, right? You just have to be on television. And it would seem these teams, so the Jets just made all these trades to get draft picks. But over the past 5 years, let's say, have they ever picked somebody that didn't work out at their team? I mean, maybe they worked out at. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at this. I'm like the Jets picking Vernon Golson, because you're wondering what they're looking at. And I know the story.
And I'm sure it's a good one. And I'm sure we're going to get to that. So, I mean, constantly this inability to draft talent. And yet, there are teams that do nothing but draft good talent.
Wonder why that is. No, I think, I don't know if you can throw the Giants into that category.
Well, lately you can.
Yeah, just, they haven't had this, they picked Daniel Jones thinking he was going to be the guy. But number one, it comes down to the quarterback. You got to have a franchise quarterback. You have to, if you're going to win in that league. I don't care what anybody else says. The New York Jets, let me say this. There's 32 billionaires. They're billionaires for a reason. They're not stupid. Some of them, Daddy gave them the money. Some of them built it from nothing. And there's a reason why there's constants throughout, and there's reasons why there's constants at the bottom too. And I look at the Detroit Lions, and I watch what Sheila Hamp has done over there. I believe that's her name. She's the granddaughter of Ford, or great granddaughter. I don't know what's sure, but she went in and changed the culture because she got rid of their standard quo that was there, and she changed everything. She took one of the best players that ever played there, Chris Spielman, and hired him and said, "What do we need to do?" And they went out and hired a coach who he and Chris Spielman are like two peas in a pod. And they went and got a general manager who understood blue collar, hard hat, Detroit, Michigan, and I don't know if hopefully they make the playoffs this year, but that town has completely changed, and that's what needs to happen at the Jets. Somebody, either Woody's got to sell it, and because I don't think there's anybody that's going to come in and do it. He's either got to
Let
sell
us
it,
pray.
and let you, it's got to change, because right now, when you make some really major decisions based on what people are putting on Instagram and InstaChat and all that other crap that there is out there, and your
Podcast.
podcast, yes, I'm guilty as charged. When you do that, then you're gonna make mistakes. You gotta. The one thing about there at the Detroit Lions, they are looking for one type of player in terms of the toughness and competitiveness and all the things it takes to be a great player. There could be a great player out there, but if he doesn't pass the test with Spielman and with Campbell and the whole organization, he doesn't even go on the board. It's like the guy down at the GM down there at Tampa Bay. I was listening to him. He says, "Look," he said, somebody was asking him about his board, the draft board. He said, "I'm not going to show you my draft board, but I can promise you this: there's 31 other draft boards, and they all look completely different than mine." And he said, "There's one reason, because every team does it sort of the same. They got a athletic grade, they got a character grade, they got a physical grade, all that stuff, right? If there's any flag whatsoever on character, they don't give a hoot who the guy is. He doesn't even get on the board. They don't even talk about him. He's not on the board, so he cannot be drafted. And so when they go to draft day, and they're sitting there saying, okay, our pick is in 3. Who are our top 4 guys in the positions that we need? Those flag guys aren't there like they are on other team. One of them, great, he had 17 sacks, but he had and red flags. They don't even go through that. And to me, how refreshing is that? Like, I want to go to that team and know that I'm going to get in a locker room with 53 other dudes that are good dudes and not bad guys. Having bad guys on the team.
Yeah.
It's just because they're a great player doesn't. It still comes down to the locker room and the team getting together and playing hard for each other. And I just thought that was really refreshing to hear, because I remember going through draft day and sitting in that room and looking at the board and, okay, our picks in 5. All right, who are our top 5 guys, and why people are picking. You're going through each one. He's a red 8, he's a red 2, he's got a red flag here, and you're sitting there going, God, I hope we don't pick him, and we end up picking him. You know what I mean? It's like, but anyway.
Do the owners play a big role in that when it's time to pick? Some do, some don't.
Some do, some don't. Some do when they shouldn't be in the room at all.
Right.
Jerry Jones.
Because I can imagine having the owner in a room has a chilling effect on everybody's free speech or free flow of ideas.
Well, that depends on the owner. Like, I'll say one thing about John Mara, and I love John. I love the Mara family. They do a great job. John wanted to hear. He wanted to hear your opinion. Like he cared about your opinion. But like he said, ultimately, the GM would look at him and say, "Okay, John, what do you think? This is who we think we should pick." And he's eventually going to make the decision because it's his team, and rightfully so, and he should. Whereas you got another guy sitting in that chair, and he's thinking about something completely different than what's going on in that room. And you ask him, "What do you think?" "Oh yeah, well, my son said this." My God, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So, you know,
Well, you had Mara and you also had George Young for a long time. So I mean,
yeah, I mean, when I was Jerry Roos and Tom. Tom was the steadying factor. Tom Coughlin was, and I don't think there's another head coach that worked as hard as he did at evaluations, and he knew, and at every position too. Like he say, "Jim, I saw this kid at Vanderbilt plays linebacker. I evaluated him. Have you seen him yet?" And I said, "Well, no, I actually got him today. I'm going to look at him today." He says, "Okay, let's talk about him later because I really like him." And when we would sit and talk, and that was always refreshing with Tom because he loved that part of the game too.
yeah.
Yep.
I love Tom Coughlin. I thought he was, maybe a little old school, but I think a little old school in a way that was good. He had results. So I think players in this new world of players will listen to a coach that wins. I mean, if you're winning and you want to play for him and he wants you to play for him, I mean, who cares what he makes you do? I mean, because winning is everything, and winning makes you money. And that's why you're playing football, throwing your life on the line every day.
Yeah. I mean that's what they're. Yeah. I mean it is. It's a great game. Some people just don't get it. Some of the owners just don't get it. But you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, what you were saying before about, quarterbacks coming back in, and we started talking about Tom more. And, I if I had a guess, and I obviously don't know, what's got to be the hardest is your memory about what it's like to get hit. I mean, if you haven't gotten hit in a long time, that's got to be bone charring. Uh,
Well,
I mean, once in a long way. I mean, I remember 100 years ago, back when I was like in my 20s, I used to fight a little bit, martial arts and stuff. And I always liked to fight guys bigger than me and better than me. I don't know why. And I used to get my butt kicked every day of the week. And I had broken some ribs, and they were broken for a while. It took me probably 6 months to 10 months before I was able to get it. And I remember just stopped doing anything. The difference of getting hit in that aspect, which is nowhere near what you get hit in the NFL, was big. I was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore because I wasn't used to it anymore.
yeah, I would say now that Tom stepped away for a full year or in some, that would be very hard. Now, do I think he could do it? Yes, in a heartbeat, because he keeps himself in such great physical shape. I mean, it's his regiment was second to none in terms of how he got his body prepared, his mind prepared for the game.
Right.
But Philip Rivers, tough dude. I mean, did it for a long time. If you're going to do it, now's the time to do it. Like if you'd never see this 20 years ago, because 20 years ago there were no rules about the quarterback back then. I mean, I truly think George Blanda was like a different dude because he did it when there was no rules about hitting the quarterback.
George Blandy, but he kicked a long time too.
Yeah,
But
he
even
did,
so,
but he had to go in a couple games and as the backup quarterback, and
I remember that.
I promise you that ball was coming out of his hands fast.
Yeah.
Part of staying in shape is not only the physical part of it, but also preparing your mind. And That was something Joe Burrow mentioned recently, his comments coming back from his injury. I know there was some questions. He had made the comment that, we get paid a lot of money to play a child's game, and he wanted to come back as soon as he could and get in there and be with his team because he felt that responsibility. And then he mentioned in the press conference, I think after the game, they were questioning whether or not he was going to continue to play football or whether or not he questioned if he was going to continue to play football. And he said something I thought was very important. He said, when it's not fun anymore, I have to ask myself if I still want to play, and that it's not easy on your body, but also on your brain. So, how much of that, some guys look at this like it's a job. And I'm sure fans don't want to hear about their quarterback going out there and having fun. But if it's not fun and it's just a job, that's got to weigh on some guys. Like Jameis Winston looks like he's having fun. He could have fun in a phone booth with no change. But some of these other guys take it really seriously and don't have that same outlook.
I think the guys that are playing, I think what Joe's trying to say is like guys that are at that level, they have such a competitive spirit about them. That's the fun that he's talking about. Like
Yeah.
I
So
want
motivation.
I want to beat you. And it's same things in coaching. I want to beat the guy across the field. I want to move my chess pieces and know that I got him. What I mean? I got him right where I want him. And I think that's kind of what Joe, I know that's Tom, was that competitive fire to win. That's the fun. The beating of another team or the beating of another man. It's like I
Yeah.
love the boxing, the old time boxing, and because it was man versus man, and
Right.
and and you get in a ring and hey, look, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, and same thing on the football field. Like that competitive spirit, that's the fun that he's talking about. I think once you lose that, then you ask yourself, and this happens sometimes, don't get me wrong, you ask yourself, do I want to keep doing this just to keep making money? I got enough
Right.
money, but do I want to just keep making money even though that fun competitive part's gone? And
That's what
unfortunately,
happened to Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
I was there with Andrew.
You were.
I watched Andrew go through pain every morning at 5:30 in the morning. I was getting my knees rehab because I just had him new knee replacements, and he was on the next. He had got the fun left his body,
Ugh.
and
I mean, he had
unfortunately,
16 surgeries or something in a real short period of time.
yeah,
I mean,
because
and there's a guy that went to Stanford. He's bright. He doesn't come from a poor family. I mean, his motivations become limited.
yeah, I mean he's such a great kid, and unfortunately, he got drafted by the Colts, and they didn't provide him the help that he was running his life every single day. But yeah, I mean, he should still be playing. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
if he would have been at New England or another place like Roethlisberger at Pittsburgh or in that same era, but he wasn't. But I watched the fun leave his body. I mean, every morning he would be done, and I'd say, "Yeah, I'll see you later." And he just walk, and he just wasn't the same Andrew Luck, And then they
Yeah, it's a
retired.
shame.
Yeah,
So much talent.
yeah,
Talk a little football quick, and we'll stick with Joe Burrow, who came back 2 weeks ago against the Ravens and had a pretty decent game. They beat the Ravens pretty soundly. They beat them 32-14. And then they come back this weekend 2 weeks later. What changed? I know they always say it's hard to beat a team twice, but they went from, you know, beating Baltimore at Baltimore and scoring 32 points to getting shut out at home. Was it injuries? Was it coaching? Was it a combination? Or is it just that hard from week to week?
yeah. I would say, especially that division, um, you know, uh, Cincinnati, the Ravens, what is it? The Steelers are in there too, or something like that.
Steelers, yeah.
Yeah, like to me, that's a tough division now.
Yeah.
And
It's always been really, yeah.
and I think Baltimore, Baltimore got shocked so early, and John Harbaugh was able to get them back on the right track, and they're getting guys back from injury, and they can kind of smell the end of the road here, and I think Cincinnati got caught with their pants down, thinking, okay, we beat them 2 weeks ago at their place, and coming into the the Lions Den, and they got their ass spanked. So part of that is coaching. Part of it is Baltimore getting their guys back, and maybe, I don't know, I didn't see Cincinnati's injury report prior to the game, but it could be some of that too.
Is John Harbaugh on a hot seat?
I don't know if he's on a hot seat. I was warm, he's done such a great job there. I think the players love him, and the players would go to bat for him, and that's really, at the end, that's what it comes down to. And I think Bisciotti's, I don't know. I mean, to me, to say that John Harbaugh's in the hot seat one bad year is like, seriously?
Yeah, because you want to say to yourself, who you getting to replace John Harbaugh?
Nobody.
Exactly. So
I think Harbaugh has done an incredible job overall, and for them to make the decision to draft Lamar Jackson, it seemed to me like that changed, like the philosophy of the team changed. And they changed because they got a premier talent, right? Is that fair to say?
Very fair.
Now, for Lamar, he's 28 years old now, and his injury clearly altered this season for them because, last season he had an MVP season. This year he gets hurt, and I think it was week 3 or 4, completely ruined my fantasy season.
Well, now we know the motivation for this question.
Yeah. Aside from that, Lamar healthy is a premier talent in this league. And you look at him and somebody like Josh Allen, these guys, the entire offense moves through them. As Lamar gets older, as Josh Allen gets older, their legs are not going to be able to carry them through some of these victories that they earn. Right now, defenses have to be accountable for the mobility of these quarterbacks. When those guys lose that ability, how do you, as a coach, move forward with the same quarterback? And are you teaching them the whole time a progression where they can have that autonomy we talked about earlier, knowing that they're going to move the football down the field with their arm rather than rely on their legs?
Next up, to me, they're not in the same class as, they're not in the same, I'm sorry, they're all high echelon players.
Yeah.
They're not in the same grouping as the Drew Brees, the Eli Mannings, the Peyton Mannings, the Tom Brady's, Philip Rivers. They're not there. That's a whole different quarterback.
Those quarterbacks you just mentioned, yeah.
These guys are over here. They're winning too. They're great players, but they kind of get thrown in that same category as wide receivers, running back, and DBs, because their bodies do take a toll. And what's going to happen is, I mean, you saw it with Lamar when he's hurt. He ain't the same guy. When Josh Allen's hurt, he ain't the same guy. Not like these other guys over here. They're different kind of quarterbacks. Now, they couldn't run to save their life. They didn't do the things that Josh does and Lamar does, but they lasted longer. They played till they were 40. I don't think these guys are going to last past 32, because they're going to get beat to shit,
The only quarterback I can think of that resembles this kind of play is Randall Cunningham, where he could run, he could pass. But Randall had a renaissance, right? Like he fell off. He was not the same player. And then all of a sudden he finds new life in Minnesota, and he essentially was a pocket passer. I mean, he hung in there tough. He could still run, but it wasn't the focal point of his game plan.
Right. Well, and I'm not saying that those guys can't do that, but that's, as an organization, you better find out fast and not hang on wishing and hoping and praying. And sometimes you got to cut ties and move on to the next. Do you want to keep that type of quarterback? Then go out and draft a young one so he can learn under Lamar, learn under Josh, and then when that time comes where you need to snip, see you later, the other kid comes in. And I would say this: there's probably more quarterbacks in that type of quarterback than there are in this other grouping that just left the NFL.
Right.
So you don't know. I don't know. I know this: as they get to that 30-year mark, their contracts cost a lot of money. If I'm
Yeah.
if I'm the owner,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay. I mean, it's like this dart kid for New York, like, owner and the head coach, they got to have a come to Jesus meeting with this kid and say, look, dude, we love your toughness. So does everybody on this football team. But that one hit he took on the sideline,
Should have ran out of bounds. Can't take that hit.
just run to where you're pointing and step out of bounds. See if you can get a 15-yard penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're not. You have to get through to him that taking that hit, it make you feel tough, but you're risking your career. You're risking our investment in you. You're risking everything we've worked for, so you could feel good about yourself.
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad you brought him up because the
Yeah, me
Giants are in
too.
a position now where they have to make a decision with not only a head coach. I think they need a new GM, to be honest with you. I think there's some major changes that need to happen in that
GMs.
organization.
Yeah,
No.
I don't. I don't want to put you in a position of talking bad about the Giants GM, but
Yeah.
I haven't. You watch. I know you can't. So you watch things and you say to yourself, what is he thinking? So I don't know. I really believe everything needs to be cleaned out there, and you need to bring in people that have a New York Giant old school view of how you play football. The
As
Tom
well as an
Coughlin,
understanding of the market.
right? The Tom Coughlin, the George Youngs, the John Mara, that view of how he'd play football and what being a New York Giant means. So I don't know.
I think to me personally, because you just said it, Justin, the New York market is those two teams are different than all 30 other teams.
No question.
You could say Philly's that way, bullshit. You could say LA's that way, bullshit. Half the people in LA don't even know they play football. You know what I mean?
That's
And they have
absolutely
two
true.
teams.
Yeah, they got two teams, exactly.
That's why they
But
have to win or else they don't have any fans.
Exactly. New York is a whole different ball of wax. I mean, it's totally different. And I think if you look at the successful guys that coached at the Giants, a Bill Parcells, a Tom Coughlin, who was the guy before Bill? I can't think of his name, but
Dan Reeves went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying is, look at those guys' personalities. Like Dan Reeves was not a comfy kind of guy. It was no nonsense, no bullshit.
No nonsense.
Here it is.
All three of those guys held people accountable.
All three of them. And also with the media. They were the same way. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what the New York media needs. Like, hey, shit, I better know what I'm doing. And this guy's we're not gonna get any sound bites from this guy. He's not dumb. He knows exactly what he wants. And I know for sure Parcells did, and Tom did in his own way. They used the media to squeeze the players in their own little way, and to me that was kind of cool to watch. But that's the kind of guy that they need, I think personally.
I think that's the kind of guy everybody needs.
Well, especially here.
I agree.
Yeah, especially here.
Especially in New York, because you have the media, as much as the media ripping into Tom Coughlin, and it's pretty hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he says the right thing all the time. He says, well, that's not what we're there for. That's the way we play football. That's the way we're going to do it.
Right. And the other thing too, like both he and Parcells were a little bit different, but like Tom, like, hey, that's me. That's on me. Like he had no problem saying that, and like some guys can't say it because they're afraid that, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired because I just said I did something wrong. Tom didn't give a shit. Neither did Parcells. Like, you want to fire me? Fire me. I don't care. And he said, but I'm going to do the best thing for this team, where some guys aren't that way.
And that's why he didn't work in Dallas, right?
You
Parcells.
look at the guys that they've marched through that door the last 4 or 5 hires here. So,
Yeah.
but
when is the last time any of the Jets or Giants had a coach the caliber, if there is such a thing, of Tom or Parcells or anybody? I mean, how many are there?
well,
There's this younger breed. I mean, whatever the guy the guy at the Rams is a pretty tough cookie for a young guy.
I like the guy. I like him. I like Shanahan. I like LaFleur. I actually like the guy down at Cincinnati. He's working with a terrible owner,
Yeah,
and
difficult.
it's hard.
Johnson in Chicago.
Yeah, Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson's doing a heck of a job.
Dan Campbell. Honest to God, like you go to interview Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson or those guys that we talked about, like you better know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And you better.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna mix any words either. You know what I mean?
You ask a question off the cuff and you weren't paying attention, you're going to get it back in your face, Dan Campbell.
Ain't no doubt, man.
Like, well, if you knew what you were talking about, right? If you knew what you're talking about, you would realize this, and this.
Yeah.
So, well, go ahead.
I was just going to mention Rex Ryan being the antithesis to all of those coaches we just named because of his personality and specifically his relationship with the media, where Rex seemed to take the pressure off the players with the media. He took it on the chin every week and went out of his way to do it, which I thought was a little refreshing in that the players could pretty much do whatever they want. It didn't matter because Rex was the soundbite. But he didn't hold them accountable enough.
Exactly.
And can a coach with a personality like that, can he hold players accountable in the locker room? I mean, I'm assuming he could.
It's hard.
But it's hard. Like a Belichick will never have that kind of relationship with the media. It's just cold and slow and boring and, but that's not who they were. Now you have Aaron Glenn with the Jets, who I love that he doesn't give them anything, but I question whether or not he's holding people accountable in the locker room.
It's hard to tell.
Does that come with experience?
Yeah, I know this. I mean, if he was on Dan's staff, I mean, I know that staff inside and out. It's all no nonsense now. It is grind all day. You get on that field for practice. Hell, you make it through practice and you get to the game, it's going to be easier,
Yeah.
And so I know he knows how to do that, whether or not probably a little bit different. He's going to be different than Dan. Dan's a different guy, but in 1 year, can you tell? I don't know. I see some things on the sideline. I don't know if I really like that, but it is what it is.
So speaking about the sideline, do you have any? And please feel free to say, I don't really want to talk about that. What the heck is going on in Philadelphia?
I'm sorry, you cut out. I'm sorry.
I said, I said, if you don't really want to talk about it, that's fine, because I know you're close to some things, but you have to say to yourself, what the heck is going on in Philadelphia? I mean, I've never seen a coach like this in my life, and has a team with talent and that could win. And you have the best running back in the world, and he ran 10 times. 10 times? This is a guy that was going to beat the all-time record, but he cared more about winning than he did the record and sat down. All right? I mean, I don't know what that tells you. I mean, we'll all remember that for the rest of our lives. Listen, he's a Hall of Fame player. He could come to work in a tutu. It wouldn't matter. I mean, do you have any comments about I don't know, their strategies, their players?
They have the talent.
No question. They won it once.
That's not a question. They have the talent. It's a good. So they're some disconnect. I mean, who's doing the play? Who's designing the plays? Who's putting the game together? And then when you get into the heat of the battle, if you have disconnect between those three architects, who's going to fall? You know,
Yeah.
we're supposed to put a girder right here. This thing's going to fall apart. So,
And imagine the control if you have disagreements with your own coaches. I mean, you don't think that bleeds to all the players? I mean, certainly it bleeds to the fans. He's screaming at the fans.
I know. He's.
I mean, I
like
never
that.
heard anything like this in my life, and I'm old. I've seen a lot of stuff. I remember Super Bowl III, clear as day. I mean, it's just
I don't know, because you know what? He was allowed to do it last year at times, and they won the Super Bowl, so it all gets kind of passed over.
yeah. Well,
Win
there's something to
takes
that.
care of everything.
Right.
Win
There's something
takes
to
care of
that.
everything.
Well, you got to, just like Mahomes, well, we didn't have all the players we need. How many years? But yet he still gets to the Super Bowl and he wins too. Even though he didn't have his right receiver, wasn't there, whatever. I mean, that fell apart this year. That bell only tolls so much, right?
Yeah.
And that fell apart. And now he's, could be pretty severely injured. There's an ACL, and they think maybe something else too. But
That's unfortunate, but I think ultimately that's going to be a blessing in disguise for for Kansas City, because I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that'll allow the Chiefs to shake the roster and build it back, and in 2 years he's going to be right there where he was when he left off.
Yep.
well, the question
agree.
becomes the end of an era between his favorite person to throw to.
Yeah,
Is that relationship going to end because he's going to retire? I don't know
his
that.
contract will probably play a factor too.
His contract's up, and
Yeah.
it's a tough game, and he seems to be distracted by everything in the world. Not that I blame him. I mean, if my girlfriend or fiance was a billionaire too and famous beyond words, I mean, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get distracted. I don't know what to say. Football's a tough sport. You have to think about that and nothing else when you're playing. And like you said, it's a 12-month thing. All off season, you're keeping yourself in shape. You're working on things, and you're getting older. And it's not like you don't fall down and get up like you used to. So I think there's a lot of things there for him.
I think it goes back to the conversation we were having before. It's like, for him, is he having any fun? That competing part of him, his competitiveness is what made him a great player. Is he still having fun competing? And to be honest with you, I don't know if he is. Just the way I watch, I'm like, that's not the guy I've seen out there laying out for a ball, doing this. So I don't know if he's enjoying the game like he used to. And I remember when his brother retired, he was the same way. He said, "I competed. I won a Super Bowl. I'm done. I don't have the wherewithal, and it's not fun anymore. Competing and beating somebody is not fun anymore."
And his brother was great. Tough position.
I think he was the best center ever played the game. I mean, I played him twice a year, every year. Tough.
He's tough, big guy. There's something about in football getting out when it's time to get out. There's something, you see these guys that lurk around, they get injured worse. They have injuries that they don't recover from so easily, if at all. I mean, when that thing goes off in your head, do I really want to do this? And you can't absolutely.
Yep.
It's time to get out.
Yep, I agree.
I agree. But there are people that keep saying absolutely when their body's giving out.
Yep.
So
that's because they're playing for the money. They're not playing for the fun anymore. They're playing for the money.
I remember a conversation that I had with family of my ex-wife's uncle, who played 10 years in the NFL for the Washington Redskins, and he was offensive tackle, and he was one of the 70 greatest Redskins of all time, on the Ring of Honor, all the thing, 2 Pro Bowls. And he said George Allen had just come in and he had played, the 10 years prior. The team wasn't that good. George Allen just had come in, and I think he played 1 year with Allen. And he said, Vince, his name was Vince Bermudo. And he said, Vince, are you going to continue playing? He goes, yeah, I feel great. And he took a video of practice and he goes, look at the way you walk. And his body was totally broken down. And it took that video to get him to realize that his body was giving out, even though that competitive spirit was still there.
Yeah. Everybody does it at a different time.
Of course, he was in Washington, and he went to law school while he played football. So he left that, and Nixon appointed him to deputy director of the DEA. So it kind of all worked out in the end.
Yeah, he did okay.
He did okay. So he passed some time ago, but he was one of those guys that people were scared of. I mean, he used to do kickoffs for $25. $25 more if you do the kickoff. All right. He goes, and he said, I would have done it for nothing because I really enjoyed running down the field and hitting people.
And back then, 25 of money.
A lot of money. Well, anyway, I think we can end it there. I appreciate, we took up so much of your time already. There's so many things. I hope you're going to come back because I want to ask you a lot about what you're doing now and what goes on out there in the European world of American football.
Yeah.
But with the Michigan issues and things, I didn't think we were ever going to stop talking about that. But I feel so lucky to have you on. We have this fledgling podcast where Justin and I almost called you Jason again. Justin and I've been calling Justin Jason for some reason for some time. And I originally did it face to face, and now I do it on the podcast all the time. Nice. So to have you on, and we've been talking about sports and just having a good time, and had a little tiny itsy bitsy bit of success. People comment, people come on, they send me questions. I'm like, what do you care what I think for? But somebody like you is somebody we do care what you think, and a player, a coach, somebody that's been around football his whole life, that enjoys it and understands it in a way that us mere mortals can never understand it. So I thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Leave your machine up or phone or whatever you're using until it says totally uploaded, because it's going to upload that bit of your audio and video from there. And then I will spend my night, instead of doing anything fun, mixing it all together to make it look better than it did live. And we'll make sure we send you a copy when that's done. And the only words I usually cut out are my own. Right, Justin?
Correct.
So,
well, good.
Anything else, Justin?
Quick prediction on the Citrus Bowl, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl featuring Michigan and Texas.
I think
that's a decent matchup.
I think I might have to go with Texas.
Wow. Shots fired.
I guess you're not becoming a coach of Michigan, huh?
I guess I'm going to have coal in my Michigan stocking up here this Christmas.
I think it'll be a great game.
I was not prepared for that answer.
Well, you know what?
Pour myself another sip of this Woodson whiskey.
There you go. I hope this, all that's going on now, doesn't get in the mix. If it does, then
yeah.
If you asked me as a betting man, right? If I was betting, I think I'd put my money on Texas. Now, if you ask me from my heart's always maize and blue. But
of course,
if you want to bet on the game, and I'm not a bet man, if I'm looking at all the outside factors, I think I'm going with Texas.
Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns, baby. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you, everybody. I appreciate you having me on.
We look forward to having you again.
Coach.
Thank
really
you. It was a pleasure meeting you, even in this way. Thank you.
All right. I press leave, right?
Yeah, that'll do.
Okay. All right. See you guys.
Good night, Coach.
Good night.
Wow.
That was great.
My friends that are Michigan, when I get this all, I was going to go out, but I'm going to stay home, put it together. I'm going to send it around to all my friends that went to Michigan.
That's great.
I mean, come on.
He's a great guy. I've known him for almost 10 years now, and I feel like I've known him my whole life.
I mean, his knowledge of things, his viewpoints of things. We are so lucky. I hope I didn't overdo it when I was blowing smoke up his ass. I mean, I really feel that way. I was being honest.
Sure.
All right. Can I go now? I've been on a computer
You're running
doing
the show,
hearing
babe.
since 9 a.m. this morning. I haven't eaten anything. All I do is talk and look, and at least I didn't have to yell at people tonight.
No yelling.
Anyway, thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Please, if you have questions, we can get them answered. We're not going to answer anything, but you can ask them. So thank you. Nice job. Nice job, Justin.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Okay, pal. Good
Bye.
night, everybody.